Good morning. Good morning. All right, there we go. It was about 2 years ago right now, excuse me, allergies. It was about 2 years ago right now that COVID shut us down for a while, temporarily but totally. And at that time, the session had the wisdom to create a committee to find out how we could go about live streaming our services. It started in April, it took about 6 months, and on October the 18th of 2020, we live streamed our first service. That created two new challenges for us, though, besides the blessing of the streaming itself. One was that we now had a new audience that we had to produce sound for that we never did before. Secondly, that audience at home had the capability, and those of you who have watched it know what I mean, those people at home had the capability of seeing projection on their TV sets or their iPads or wherever you were watching that you can't see in the sanctuary. So with some more wisdom, the session created another committee, which is now about 1.5 years ago, to find out what we could do to improve the sound system in the sanctuary and then at the same time for the live streaming folks, and also to look at possibly getting some projection into the sanctuary as well. So the committee, there's 6 of us. We went to a lot of different vendors. We took in a lot of different quotes. We looked at a lot of different possibilities. We looked at a lot of different ways to go about all of the different needs of the sanctuary. And we settled on a company that's out of Florida. They came in and they did all kinds of sound engineering in the sanctuary. They measured every wall, every cubby hole has been measured. They had all kinds of equipment in here. And they came back to us with a proposal that we then presented to the session now about 3 weeks ago, I guess, unanimously approved by them. And so here I am today to openly kick off and present to you a little bit of information about what it's all about. You need to understand a little bit of background, though. This building is now 22 years old, and from the inception of it 22 years ago, there has been sound problems in the sanctuary. The original sound system was one speaker located up there in the center where you see that little dark area, and 2 microphones. There was no carpeting in here. The panels across the back, the glass was straight, it wasn't on angles. They were doing everything they possibly could to improve the sound in this sanctuary. Over the course of the next X number of years, some of those acoustical panels have been added at 3 different times along the way. We tried putting in new column speakers, etc., to get us to an improved state. The reality is that what we did without having all the experts to show us exactly what should be done is we were just putting Band-Aids over a situation, and we weren't really accomplishing the goal of creating a good sound system in here that those of us that worship here and then also from an outreach standpoint deserve to have. So we presented that to the session, and as I described it then and now, we have a leaky sound system just like we used to have a leaky roof. And that leaky roof, we used to just put little patches up there and hope that the leaks would go away. And after my involvement 14 years later, we finally put somebody up on the roof that actually repaired the roof for us, and we have not had any leaks since. And that's the same thing that has to happen with the sound system. Our system is inadequate, it's inferior, and it's failing. It's inadequate because we don't have the capacity to send the right sound across the stream and also provide the right sound here in the sanctuary. It's inferior because everything is old. The wiring is now 22 years old. That soundboard is practically 22 years old. These speakers are now old, and they're not digital, they're not up to date, they're not current, and they're not doing for us what they ought to do. And I say it's failing because that soundboard up there is working on half capacity. We have had to actually reboot it a number of times in the last 6 months, turning it off and turning it back on again just to be able to produce sound because it had totally shut itself down. It's also failing because we're having wiring problems. We streamed the live services for the temple, and we were here this past Friday, and in the middle of it, some of the choir mics were crackling, and we discovered that it's because of wiring up there, and we had to shut them down, and they couldn't even use the choir mics for most of their service. So that's why I say that it's failing. This is not an inexpensive proposition. It will be the largest capital improvement that this sanctuary has made by far since we opened up. The total cost of the project is $271,000. That includes a total new sound system, new board, more mics, better mics, all new wiring, etc. It includes more and additional acoustical panels on the walls. We right now have 46 panels, believe it or not, and only about 20 of them are in the right place, and none of them are of a high enough quality to do the job they should be doing. So what it's going to entail is taking down what we have, and then they will be replaced by new. Of that $271,000, the session has unanimously approved that $100,000 come from our memorial fund. We had had two very generous benefactors, one who was not even a member of the church, who left enough money that we would be able to use $100,000 out of the memorial fund to start the project, which means we need another 171. Of that, the approval that we have from the session, again, is that we need to raise first in actual cash on hand capital $100,000. And then after that, we need to have the $71,000 made out in pledges that can be paid over up to a year's worth of time, and we can begin the project. You will be getting this week a letter in the mail from us, along with a pledge card, but also an invitation to attend different town hall meetings that we're going to be having, so that you can actually see the presentation. You'll be able to see where the acoustical panels will go. You'll be able to see what the new microphones look like, what the new speakers look like, etc. And you'll be able to ask all the questions that you could possibly want to ask. So the letter will have that information. The first one is April the 3rd, right after the 10:30 service. So you can, if you care to, you can stay then. Then the other two are after Easter. We have one on I forget, 20th and 26th. One's in an evening and one's in the afternoon, so that we can try to accommodate everybody for all the different times that may be good for you. And if we need to have more town halls, then we certainly would do that as well. Okay? So you'll be getting that. Sign up. If you have any questions, I'll be around afterwards. There was a little blurb in the bulletin. My email is there as well. All right? We have to listen to the experts and get it done.